What's happening? Benton here. Another rainy day in Southern California. I believe it's four in a row, although who's counting? And since I rarely make it to the end of my data plan, meaning that I have bandwidth I paid for that generally does not get used up, why not go live and show you my purty face and my voice as the smartest person that sounds the dumbest? I certainly get a kick out of that. I have some notes that I took the other morning when I only performed the live stream in my head. It never quite made it to the channel. And it's always good to see who's around, who have I not ran off yet. Uh, so we shall see. I might hit some news articles, perhaps. I've been seeing some interesting terminology. What's up, Mr. Bad Barney? Dancing Israelis hype? What are we? Are we? Is that 9/11 talk or is that something new? But what's up, Kyle? We can always get into conspiracies if we need to. Miss Sam in the house. Holla. Um, some talk of credit default swaps in a mainstream financial article. I think it was a CNBC article, which is further evidence of something I've talked about regularly, which is that the conditions that led to the 0809 global financial crisis, that none of those underlying conditions have ever been addressed or fixed, and all of those various cans have been kicked down the road. Uh, Credit default swaps being one of them. Hey, Rachel, long time no see. What's happening? Hope you're well. Yeah, since I'm not that I'm really stuck in the car, because what happens is, even though it's forecast to rain, it will just rain off and on. So, but I've already done quite a bit of walking around this AM. Although, at the risk of again further, hey, what's up, Jessica? Potentially doxing my position, the LA Marathon is going to force me to move my automobile at some point this weekend, which not a huge fan of. Thinking about a road trip, you just never know how these things might turn out, and I'm attempting to motivate myself to go back to truck driving, but I don't know if I can. I don't know. It might be a bridge too far. Although I am going to have to travel, and let's not loop into problem solving now. I don't need suggestions on how to avoid physically going to Arkansas, but believe me, I'm aware of all the various factors. But yeah, my driver's license will have to be renewed at some point, and that will necessitate physically visiting Arkansas. Although one cannot uh, renew the license any sooner than 90 days, so that's not until, I don't know, whatever 90 days from the middle of August is. Three ladies in the chat. It's been a minute since that's happened. I've looked at my YouTube stats. The female audience has been dwindling as a percentage, but anyway. Uh-oh, Kyle's a conservative Christian. The only thing he swaps his wives. I see what you did there, Kyle. That's good stuff. And for those who may not know, Kyle IAB, which stands for is a bitch. Kyle here knows a lot about the so-called lol cows. Uh, King Cobra JFS, for example, who we have covered on the channel. It's been a while. King Cobra JFS got his channel deleted. He's already back on a backup channel, though, but who knows if that will continue on or not. But yeah, various lolcow happenings. Anthony Cumia has returned to terrestrial radio He seems to be stepping his game up. I'm seeing him show up on more of the clip channels of late. Um, Not much going on in the only use me Blade universe, unless yeah, that's right. Rest in peace, Ozzy. Unless something's happened with Blade after his so-called relapse. Yeah, that's right. Opie seeding. If anybody, that's one thing about the so-called truthers. The truth community has almost no knowledge of Opie and Anthony, but that's all right. We will not hold that against them. But yeah, and which is funny because Opie's actually rich. As I've talked about before, everybody who has to work a job to maintain their lifestyle is a poor person. Well, guess what? Greg Opie Hughes, formerly of the Opie and Anthony show, made enough money and held on to it apparently where he doesn't have to work. So he chooses to live stream to, I kid you not, if we hit around 30 folks as we do at times, that I believe my YouTube viewers are actually higher than his. He probably has more overall views, I'm assuming, but and I think he multi-streams. But yeah, he exactly has a Upper West Side Manhattan apartment with a dope view that I'm assuming he owns it. Yeah, imagine what that thing's worth. He could, if he actually had financial problems, God forbid, I'm assuming he could cash out. That thing's probably quadrupled in value. I'm assuming. Oh, gold, by the way, hitting 3,000 for the first time. I had 6 ounces of gold that I purchased at about half of that, but of course I failed to hang on to it. We liquidated at a loss of about $100 per ounce. Actually, the spread, we lost the spread. That's okay though. Also lost after liquidating a small arsenal of firearms and ammunition. That's okay too though. What do y'all think? Yeah, exactly. That's 6 ounces more than Fort Knox. Man, and wow, yeah, the financial stuff. If I wasn't in the headspace, and if I was not fully adapted to homelessness and street level homelessness, I would probably be worried right about now. But then again, you know, people should have probably been worried all along. But it looks to me like the debt servicing, and this may be part of the reason for Trump being the president in the first place, but this debt service seems to be a big deal. My contention is that all these Doge cuts is mainly about the bankers continuing to receive their interest payments on the national debt, which last year, a frequent theme on the channel, the 1.15 trillion that was given in 2024 to bankers, rich bankers. Yeah, it's a little chilly there, Rob. Good to see you, Mr. Escobar. Yep. Word games in the chat. Have we not moved beyond these word games yet? Do we really need to go by archaic definitions of words? I mean, is that really necessary? Because I'll just hit you back if we're going to have to go by if we're going to have to go by definitions that now says archaic next to it. We're going to have to go back to the 1800s or whatever for definitions. Let me point you to a word called de facto. That should trump the old timey word games. But yeah, point taken, Mr. Miyagi. It's funny. One thing about having a loud ass voice, ain't nobody got shit to say until I open my loud ass voice. Now I'm hearing just a cacophony of voices outside the car. Um, and I would ask y'all this: who's old enough to remember when it used to be loud in public everywhere a person went? Years ago, there was some loud conversations happening at all times. Those days seem to be over with. Lost from the slave. Greetings from the slave ship lost at sea. There you go. Indeed, Grills. Indeed, indeed. But yeah, it seems to me like the Doge cuts is mainly about the already rich bankers being able to continue to pay themselves first. If anybody remembers that Rich Dad Poor Dad, that Robert Kiyosaki, that was a big theme from that book from many years ago, was pay yourself first. And the bankers always pay themselves first. So believe that. They're getting their interest money. So that was my prediction when you see the notion of a potential of up to 1 trillion cut from the government within 1 year. That's going to be pretty close to what the bankers are going to take. So, yeah, interesting. Well, I would go by the commonly see what it could mean and what does it mean in practice. I would go, which now we're back to the actual meaning of the word de facto. I would go by the commonly accepted meaning, which is in practice, whether official or not. Now that's coming off the dome, so my undiagnosed fake autism would necessitate that we check out the definition. But yeah, we're going by the up to date stuff. We're not going by the old timey definitions of words. Uh, because honestly, to do that would be to not be existing in reality, also known as delusion, right? I'm doing my best to not exist in delusion. But yes, de facto meaning in practice, in actual use or existence, regardless of official or legal status, right? What's up, Venus? Good to see you. Well, there you go. So it's just to prolong the government defaulting. Yeah, and that's what I would say is that and I don't know enough about finances to say exactly when, but uh, the financial system, and in some ways, I believe this ties in with the government, which, as many folks like to talk about in the so-called truth community, is at least one corporation, if not a series of corporations. And then you get into the, all caps United States and all of these things. And then United States of America, I guess, mixed case, is that two different corporations? I don't know. I lose track. But looking at something I've studied, and one of the benefits, one of the advantages, as I attempt to motivate myself to return to truck driving, is one of the advantages is being able to listen to audiobooks. So there's an audiobook about Enron, the history of Enron. Um, Something like 80 hours. I've listened to that book at least 3 times. And uh, it turns out that Enron was insolvent on paper and continued to operate for at least a couple of years until some really smart lady journalist, and again, this is official fiction, but until some really smart lady journalist looked into their books and said, well, actually, they're insolvent, and they were the darling of Wall Street. They were the number one stock like 9 years in a row. And then almost like something out of the movie Idiocracy, like the stock just basically went to zero more or less overnight on the news of, wow, it turns out that this company's insolvent. However, I would say at this point, my limited knowledge would be that the only thing preventing that from happening to the United States would be the fact that the U.S. dollar is still, utilized in the various ways that it's utilized, globally, right? And this idea of a world reserve currency and all of these things, right? Uh, so, if Enron could have made its own money, or some version of that, perhaps it would still be around. I don't know. And now when I look at the stock market, that was the idea of Enron, is that Enron, you know, it was just this outlier fraud, and then so much so that four of the executives went to prison which is very rare in America for corporate executives to go to prison. Especially following something like that. And in reality, the Enron was the test case, and for a lot of what's going on now. And I would say, my contention is that the entirety of the Dow Jones Industrial Average is now, it's just a bunch of Enrons. Mark to market accounting, if anybody's familiar with that. All right, we got a made man in the house. What's happening, Mr. Steven? Been enjoying your content. Um, the less I interfere with Steven's content, the better I feel. So just admiring from afar. But yeah, good stuff. Um, I'm being careful now, as some of my ideas that seem to be generating with me, vis-a-vis the Hell Realm, seem to be morphing with some of Stevens. But perhaps he's probably just a little farther along that path than myself. It's probably not that I'm catching up, but maybe I'm caught up to where Stephen was 5 years ago with the Hell Realm talk. So because that's a very frequent theme for me. It's part of what keeps me from doing a lot of these live streams. Actually, is that um, I'm like 5 years ahead of most. It seems most folks with respect to just the thinking, right? The utilizing of one's being, the few that are even doing that, by the way. Now, Mr. Miyagi's about 20 years behind, as we know, but that's okay. I hear he may have been dropped on his head. I'm not exactly sure, but it's possible. There, and thank you. Yes, Enron, indeed, small potatoes. And in some ways, I view Enron as a prototype. It was sort of that was like a new way of doing business and accounting, in order to move to an even more fraudulent way of business, and certainly would have already been fraudulent, but a furthering of the fraud, as it were. But yeah, very very interesting, very interesting. Let me see. Maybe I can find that article about the credit default swaps. I was pretty surprised to see that term mentioned in a just a regular old article about the financial system. Let's see. Can we find it? We're going to have to go to the history, to the herstory. The her story. Oh man, I read too many articles here. So this is why did I not bookmark this? Oh well, such is life. They're already talking about Mayor Pete running for president next time around. I'm not even going to attempt to predict politics. Hmm, this might take too long. Oh, I know. Maybe if I just type MSNBC into the old search bar, or CNBC. Go CNBC. Yeah, there it goes. There it is. U.S. budget deficit surged in February. Is that it? This camera's not gonna. It's not gonna show this. Uh, oh, that's not even it. The attention spans—they're dropping off. We lost a quarter of the audience. Maybe it's this Ray Dalio, if I'm saying that right, warns that mounting U.S. debt problems could lead to shocking development. Oh, this is about the idea of nobody wanting to buy U.S. debt. But that's, we hear about that a lot. That's a common theme over time, but it always seems to get purchased, even if it's the Fed buying the debt. Yeah, that's not it either. Damn it. Well, shit. Can I keyword search my history? Will that work? Anybody know? Yeah, there we go. Credit default swap. There we go. Haha, Yahoo article. Yahoo Finance. Growing fears of corporate defaults hit U.S. credit markets. Worries about corporate credit defaults rose in the U.S. for a second straight day on Tuesday after U.S. President Donald Trump threatened to ratchet up tariffs on Canada. Now, here's a key word, and for people who read financial articles, you don't see this one a lot, but this was one of the big key phrases and terms of the 0809 global financial crisis and the fallout in derivatives markets. Yes, derivatives. And that was the at one point Alan Greenspan, who was considered such a financial genius that who was that one congressman that was almost president? Uh, I forget. One of the old white guys. He was. They considered Greenspan such a financial genius that this guy McCain, yeah, McCain said that if Greenspan passed away, uh, that they would prop him up Weekend at Bernie's style. And what's up, Clump? Oh yeah, yeah. No more Grad. Rest in peace, Grad. I hope he's doing all right. Yeah, that's a bummer. Yeah, hopefully he just hit his channel. Maybe he'll be back. I don't know that we've confirmed a channel deletion, but yeah. Yeah, old Grad. That was a lot of grinding in the. It's just like it's tough to get an audience, man. It really is. So shout out to 23 in the house. What a blessing. Because I think Grad was far more entertaining than myself, certainly. Um, Yeah, in derivatives markets. So this is what Alan Greenspan said, that he's admitted at a certain point that he didn't even really know what a derivative was, right? And even myself, who studied the financial system, at a certain point, I understood what they meant by derivatives, but couldn't even really, maybe could explain it. Certainly not now. But a credit default swap is part of that, and we're going to get to here shortly. In derivatives markets, the cost of protecting corporate credit against default rose to the rose to some of the highest levels. I guess AI wrote this article. Rose to some of the highest levels in nearly 7 months. And I've never even heard of this, but whatever this is, the spread on the market MARKIT CDX North American investment grade index widened as much as 2.4 basis points. I don't even really know what that means. Blah blah blah, a bunch of stuff. Oh, credit derivatives also reflected growing investor concern about retailers and airlines. So when you hear people talking about this idea of a casino, this is something Alex Jones used to talk about a lot. This idea of the financial system just being more or less like a big casino. A lot of that is not through stocks and futures and put options, and that's the stuff they let y'all do, right? Or that's what they let the commoners do. When they talk about the big casino, that's at a certain point they talked about the derivatives, the total derivatives market being in the quadrillions, right? That's what this is. The credit derivatives also reflected growing investor concern about retailers and airlines. 5-year credit default swaps. Interesting. Credit default swaps on Kohl's Corp bonds rose as much as 150 basis points, the most in more than 3 years. And this is probably part of the ways that these corporations, the idea of too big to fail, or, if people think there's a such thing as free market economics, which is certainly not a thing. And again, I'm not formally educated. I'm educated as a layperson, and some of this is a bit ahead of my skis already. I really do need to go back and brush up on some of this knowledge. But um, my understanding is that in the past this was not possible, but at a certain point, people figured out how to trade and sell and purchase the risk of a corporation defaulting, right? So, in a free market, or in our in these capitalist economic systems, it's always possible that a business will go under, right? I mean, that's historically been the case. And then you get into the loaning of money and all of these things. So that's where the credit default swap comes in. Is these various entities are allowed to, especially when they go into risky endeavors, they say, well, this is such a risky thing. How are we going to protect ourselves? Because remember, there's a board of directors, there's a chairman of the board, there's a CEO, there's a CFO, and all of this. And, they've got careers. Let's not forget Jamie Dimon. He's a billionaire. He's only ever worked for other people. He's produced nothing, right? They have to keep their careers going. So part of that is, okay, well, and then to back up a little bit, some of what really got the ball rolling towards the 0809 global financial crisis was, a lot of these people in finance wanting to have the ability to get fabulously wealthy, but the laws not really allowing them to. So a removal of a lot of those restrictions. So, at a certain point, if a person, was an executive with a bank that took people's deposits, right? Like a Wachovia, for example, one of the few that's no longer around, that the fact that they took money from the public on deposit, that precluded the organization from engaging in certain risky behaviors. And then probably through Glass-Steagall, I'm assuming, had something to do with that. Again, I'm just coming off the top of my head from things I studied many years ago. This is probably going back to 2010 and 2011. So, it's been a minute. So do your own research. Don't take my word for it. Um, so then, and a lot of that had to do with like the dot-com boom, and a lot of these companies, investors, a lot of these companies going from 0 to 100 overnight, and people getting filthy rich, and then these uh, bankers not really being able to do that because they were, historically, banking and finance would have been more associated with the conservative approach, right? And doing things safely, right? Uh, so then over time, as these institutions were able to engage in more and more risky behaviors, um, then it was like, okay, how does the people running the company protect, which also, by the way, the idea in the back of their minds, really the only issue would be them going under by themselves, because as we saw in 0809 was the beginning of the idea of too big to fail, meaning, hey, we've got this thing called the American taxpayer. They're the biggest sucker in all of human history, as far as we can tell. Probably they'll just bail us out. Like if we just, so, let's not run our ships aground individually. Let's make sure to collude, right? these people, the Jamie Dimons of the world and all his buddies, let's make sure that we work together so that when the shit goes down, all the ships go down simultaneously. And we'll tie that all into the idea that, well, home prices could never fall simultaneously all across the country. And that's what the subprime mortgage crisis was based on, was the securitization, right? And fraudulently obtaining AAA credit ratings for these financial instruments that included a whole bunch of mortgages, that pieces of these financial instruments had contained mortgages that were guaranteed to fail, essentially. That's where the liars loans and the ninja loans came in. And of course, the American public was blamed. So when the 0809 happened, a lot of people in Congress, a lot of people in power said, well, they blamed us for it. They said, well, yeah, it's because Americans took out loans that they had no business taking out. And then the bank said, hey, it wasn't our fault for making the loans. Congress passed laws and forced us to make the loans under the auspices of you can't discriminate against the black and the brown folks, right? But then again, you also in that period we had sitting Congress people making statements such as the banks own the Congress. So if the banks, is my contention, the banks own the political system in conjunction with the corporations. You know, by the way, shout out to the dono, much appreciated. Um, Not sure if the donator wants to be recognized or not, but thank you very much appreciated. That will help me out. In fact, I've got some plans for that money already. Thank you, much appreciated. Oh, skate and destroy, looping into problem solving down in the chat. He's new around here though, so we'll forgive him this time for his loop into problem solving. Although, let me find my notebooks. I have an entire page of notes on the folly of the loop into problem solving. Where is it? Give me just a moment. So, and I was looking at these notes before I went live, and I said, I don't know if I can really even bring myself to cover this material, but I got a whole, sorry, I got a whole I got a whole page of notes on what Skate and Destroy is trying to do down in the chat. But I like to say I don't blame you. It's human nature. Uh, Human nature is to identify when a problem is identified, to then immediately go about solving the problems, right? And in fact, there's psychological mechanisms for why our minds operate that way. Now, it's my assertion that you can call it Satan, although many people don't like me speaking that way. But if we think about just the forces of evil, right, in a bozo nightmare, forces of evil in a bozo nightmare. Shout out to the bozo nightmare. Um, my contention is whatever that force is the foremost expert in human psychology. So it's using, and then that's also the force that actually owns and operates the bankers and the CEOs of the corporations. And in fact, I view the bankers and the corporate CEOs um, as administrators of the evil, wicked system on behalf of, again, if we think of a being, Satan, or a personification of evil, again, however, whatever we want to call it, um, that it is far more intelligent than us humans, and it uses its minions, right, the Jamie Dimons of the world, and the Donald Trumps of the world, the Joe Bidens of the world, the Kamala Harrises of the world, to do its bidding. And it understands us better than we understand ourselves, so that when a person like me begins talking about the realities of living in this heaven or hell realm in 2025. And again, I'm not picking on you, Skater Destroy, by the way, and I'm glad to have you around. I'm not picking on you. In fact, you're going to make the live stream better by even speaking this way. But this is an error in thinking. What you're doing, make no mistake, this is a mistake, and it's what the enemy uses against us is our own flawed thinking. And I've said before that if I had one wish for the people that I interact with, it would be that they think for themselves. But that's just a stepping point. That's a beginning point. And eventually, I would like to get to, okay, now they're thinking for themselves. Now it's okay. Can we remove the flaws and the errors in the thinking, right? Um, uh, yeah, and the reality is there's no escaping any of this. Homesteading's not going to fix these problems, right? Purchasing land is not going to fix these problems. Buying gold is not going to solve these problems. And I would argue, I would assert that it comes down to a spiritual battle. It's always comes down to a spiritual battle, a spiritual war. And I won't preach too much on that, but really, we're only addressing the physical. When we talk about those type of matters, really, it comes down to um, you know notions around what can I do to secure my own physical safety, my own access to food, my own access to shelter, my own access to water and air. The fact is, you can't. I mean, you're not even promised tomorrow. There is no security in this place. There's nothing you can do. Now, a person can take actions that will increase their chances of not being safe and secure, and a person can do things to, either way. We can make little tweaks individually, right? Um, but ultimately, there's no security on those levels. You cannot secure yourself physically. It just can't be done. It's not possible. Um, so this is something I call the loop into problem solving, and again, it's a part of our psychology. And I've talked about before how our psychologies are formed within the system. And in fact, I would assert that our psychologies individually are products of the system itself. So of course, if I'm the system, I'm going to look at these humans and say, I had you from day one. I created your psychology. I've already got you captured. So when you're out here talking about, invest in gold, buy land, grow your own food, where do you think you got those ideas? You're so lost. You think, and again, I don't really want to address the listener as if they did this. So uh, I don't want to address the listener as if they're doing this. But so people who are falling victim to these psychological control mechanisms, the system, I think, the idea of the evil behind the scenes rubbing its hands together, just saying, look at you, silly person. Look at how silly this is, what you're doing. You've fallen right into my trap. Um, and it's designed to get the person to feel a certain type of way, right? Oh, well, now so, he's saying things that we don't feel secure. But what I would say is if you have a feeling of security in this realm, that's a delusion. Like what, how are you deluded? Like, and again, I'm attempting to discipline my own language. How has a person gotten to such a delusional state that they already feel secure within this system? I don't feel secure within this system at all. uh, I know that how precarious this is. I know that this could be over with in an instant. I know you got people now hoping for the meteor. They're like, bring on the meteor, man. Uh, yeah, exactly. Well, and that's a non-starter too, right? And I myself, just to, you know, Skate and Destroy says I would never suggest gold or silver, lead maybe. I myself actually spent a considerable amount of money, over $20,000, in fact, on hardware, let us say, and that I no longer have, which is probably for the best. It's a little more consistent with what I would like to think my values are. No hitchhiking. We're in a car right now, but it's my car. But I do hitchhike regularly. I'm trying to think. I don't know that I've hitchhiked in 2025 yet. I haven't. No, I definitely hitchhiked in 2024, but have yet to hitchhike in 2025. But probably it will happen. Well, and I want to say this. Uh, Skate and Destroy said, it's all good. I'm always open to hear others' thoughts and learn when I can from them. And that's the key, in my view, is the learning, right? Because that's what I do. Like that, I'm out here learning. Now, what I've found is I'm my own best teacher, right? And I'm learning from observing other people. I'm not learning much from what people tell me though. Like I'm learning a lot from watching people and watching the world. So that's good. But yeah, what can you learn from them? Now, what could be learned from me is how to think, right? How to structure one's thinking, and then also, and this is what I'm talking about here, how to detect errors in one's thinking. And one of the major errors that I've identified in the so-called truth community, especially in the panel verse going back many years now, is something I call the loop into problem solving. And it occurs virtually every time someone such as myself begins to accurately describe the unfolding of the hell realm, right? So, talking about news articles tied to finances, right? Talking about things having to do with the political system. So then it causes, right? And by the way, there's a major tie in here with advertising and marketing, because marketing and advertising, and again, we'll go back to my assertion that uh, that America, we're not atheists as Americans. We believe in God. Unfortunately, the God that we worship collectively as Americans is money. Money is our God, and we worship via consumerism. So that means that collectively, humans in America, Americans have been captured by marketing, and that in fact, um, the way people view themselves is via the products and services that they purchase, right? The purchasing, the consuming of the product. And again, this is back to the enemy understanding us better than we understand ourselves, that then enables us to feel a certain type of way about ourselves and to feel all powerful, all knowing, right? Above it all. Okay. And that feeling of safety and security and all power and all knowingness in order to be marketed to, um, that's one of the major reasons why the person loops into problem solving when they hear me speaking about things that upset that balance, right, within the individual. What I would say is in this heaven or hell realm, manifesting as a hell realm, you're not supposed to feel safe and secure, in my view. You're not supposed to wake up every day and feel like, wow, I can kick back and relax because I got nothing to worry about. Now, I'm not saying to worry, I'm not prescribing worry. What I'm saying is intellectually, that's not a sustainable idea in my view. That's something to be resolved within the individual. And this is where I get into some of my ideas of various practices. I would like to believe that I have created for myself within myself various spiritual practices, mental practices, disciplines, the continuous disciplining of the mind, where I'm able to exist in this heaven or hell realm, manifesting as a hell realm on a daily basis, and be able to balance all of this out, my emotions, my thoughts, my mental state, right? Maintaining of my sanity, right? Financial matters, interactions with my fellow humans, and to do that while accepting reality, right? Because to not accept reality is to exist in a delusion. And again, back to marketing, marketing depends on the individual existing in a near perpetual state of delusion. So all I'm doing is speaking true, verifiable facts that I can absolutely support and prove through logic. I can logically prove everything I'm saying here, except the parts that are opinion, of course. And then it's about, well, how persuasive can I be in the parts that actually are not provable via logic? Now, here's how you know the ones that are opinion are. That'll be the parts that if other people attack some of my arguments and assertions, that'll be the parts that I either choose not to defend or I'm unable to defend, right? And until you or until the individual, until the thinker is able to do what I'm describing right now, these processes that are going on within me, what chance does the individual have? Well, now the individual's left in a position where, for the benefit of the system, on behalf of the system itself has programmed the individual probably via the Hope Station. I don't know. I'm having some of these thoughts for the first time, but it's actually indoctrinated and formed the psychology of the individual to feel powerful, to feel like it knows something, to feel secure based on what powerful institutions and powerful phenomenon or phenomena outside of the individual. Right. Now, again, is any of this logical? Does any of this make sense? Can any of this stand up to scrutiny? No, absolutely not. It cannot stand up to scrutiny. And that's one of the major reasons why the system needs you to not be able to think for yourself, why it needs individuals. And many of you are able to think for yourselves. And, God bless you for that. Um, However, that's not a 100% of the time. I don't think for myself 100% of the time. I still have coding and brainwashing and programming that I default to at times, right? The fact that I've detected much of my own brainwashing, indoctrination, programming, and have removed it and replaced it with my own brainwashing, indoctrination, and coding. Because that's right. Yes, we can program ourselves. Absolutely, we can individually. Um, we can do that as individuals. Uh, I'm not any better than any of the rest of you. It's just I would bet money that my frequency of acting on my own programming versus the systemic programming, that I probably have a higher batting average. That's really all we're talking about. So then the progression, one of the progressions, and I've said this before, my path is progress. One of the progressions would be progressing towards as close to 100% of the time as possible spent operating based on one's own programming. And the fact is, if I'm able to program myself, I can actually program myself in real time based on my own critical thinking and my own deductive reasoning skills, my own observations. And that's what's fun to me about being a person. That's one of the few things that gets me out of bed in the morning here in this heaven or hell realm is the fact that we do have access to these powers and abilities, but they don't until we actively as individuals tap into those powers, they lie dormant. And that's one of the major things the system plays upon is, hey, and again, back to marketing. Look at how much of marketing is tied into kick back and relax, rest assured, right? Purchase our product, purchase our service, and you don't have to be worried. You don't have to be stressed out because we've solved your issue. See? What I'm saying is the only way out is through. The more I move through the discomfort, the more I move through the anxiety, the more I move through the worry and the uncertainty. That's how I'm able to come out the other side of it. Right. And that's to me where the true freedom and the true power is for me individually. And all of that can only take place within me, within what I call my own sphere of influence. Now, here's the thing is, I'm not creating a team, right? I'm not starting a business. I'm not starting a cult. I'm not starting a movement. I'm not starting a team where now a bunch of people are going to link together and we're all going to do this together. It doesn't work that way because motivation is crap. The fact is, my power to influence any of this, any of what I'm speaking on, my power to do any of those things at a level of effectiveness in the real world, right? What can I demonstrate on my path of progress? What can I actually prove, right? That all comes from working within myself, within my own sphere of influence. None of it comes from external factors, right? At least not directly. So now we're back to the herd mentality. Now we're back to what humans want to do. And again, the system formulated our psychologies individually. The system wants you to always do what's good for the system, to always do what reinforces the system. What reinforces the system is for you to go get in a herd somewhere, because this idea that there's power in numbers, no, there's not. This idea that you're safe in the herd, no, you're not, because when the predator comes and we're out on the Serengeti and there's a whole bunch of zebras or whatever, wildebeest, here comes the predator and he's going to get one of them. right? He's going to pick one of them off. The only strength in numbers is it's a mathematically making it less likely that you're the particular wildebeest that's about to get picked off. But make no mistake, you're still a wildebeest waiting around to get picked off in that scenario, right? Uh, Now, a person like me can see the strategic flaws in such a way of living. And of course, I lived that way for many years. Once I figured out the folly in that, I said, okay, now I must find another way to live. And it's been a process, an ongoing process, processes that are unfolding and have been unfolding for years, decades, right? And these processes will continue unabated on a daily basis until I draw my last breath, until this heart stops beating, right? And there, I'm not able to, unfortunately, I can't just remove part of my brain and then put it in your brain. It's not a thing that can happen. That's why it all breaks down. That's why the idea of joining a team, joining a movement, joining a cult, right? Just send me money and I'll be your progress coach or whatever. None of that works. None of that doesn't serve anybody, because until the individual connects within themselves to whatever their source of power is in their own sphere of influence, there is no progress. And that's why when I look at the panelverse, the so-called truth community, all I see, with a few exceptions, and apologies for all the if you're watching me on the screen instead of just listening, uh, that's why I see very few people making any sort of actual progress. That's why I see so much spinning of the wheels, uh, because there is not that connection within oneself. But there's a lot of what so-called drama bonding, so-called trauma bonding. People are absolutely connecting externally, and I'm not saying not to do that. That's fine, but connecting externally to each other, and thus uh, not connecting inwardly inside of themselves, right? Which is, who does that benefit? What does that benefit? That benefits the system. So anytime we as individuals default to just a notion of what we think we should do, that serves the system. See, and that's where I'm critical of the ideas around the loop into problem solving. Oh well, get get the land, get the bullets, get to this, get to that. And I fell into that too, by the way. So I'm not preaching anything here that I myself haven't fallen victim to. But then I figured out, okay, well, this isn't going to work. And mine was based on a worst case scenario, and also something of a fantasy that it was going to turn into an actual Mad Max scenario. And eventually I figured out, oh, no, wait a minute. We're living the Mad Max. This is the Mad Max. It just doesn't look the way I was predictively programmed, and Mad Max from the Mad Max series of movies. It just doesn't visually look the way I was told it was going to look, right? Meanwhile, it is a version. This is Mad Max. Absolutely, that's what this is. Well, yeah, I agree, Rachel. Rachel says people want to feel like they belong. Absolutely. And again, the system uses that against us. So at a certain point, one of my major epiphanies was, and this is wisdom bestowed upon me. Again, I'll sidestep the preaching. The audience has humored enough of my preaching lately, but I'll say that in my view, wisdom is bestowed or granted. It's not attained. So I don't know that I attained that, but at a certain point, I came to the realization that the system understands me better than I understood myself, and it's using all of my own nature against me. And that's one of the many ways that the system uses my own nature against me, is that, yeah, I do want to belong, right? But not in a vacuum. See that, and that's where something I've talked about becomes critical, is that, the normies, the average person, is able to consider one idea at a time in the best case scenario. Now, a lot of the time, people can't even consider one idea at a time. But people are not, most people in this system, in 2025 cannot entertain two or more ideas simultaneously. So the notion of feeling like I belong, if that's the goal, then this system has limitless ways and says, okay, we will take your desire and we will provide you with a mechanism that suits you as an individual for feeling like you belong. Now, problem solved. But the problem is, if I haven't progressed within my own sphere of influence, if I haven't evolved my thinking, evolved my consciousness, which means awareness, if I haven't done all of this work, then I won't realize that, well, the feeling like I belong in a vacuum, that ain't good enough. That can never carry the day, right? In fact, I would argue that that's one of the major reasons why humanity is in the mess that it's in. I would argue that that's one of the major reasons why this heaven or hell realm is not manifesting as a heaven realm for most of us, if not all of us. Why it is manifesting as a hell realm is because of that reason. The system says, oh, you want to feel like you belong? Okay, well, now here's all of these various ways that you can feel like you belong. Now, problem solved. Do not pass go, do not collect $300, meaning stop thinking. And the more I've observed this system and the more I've observed my own consciousness and my own thinking within my own sphere of influence, I've realized just how much of what goes on in this system is set up to cause me to stop thinking, right? And to me, that's a big red flag. That's a warning system. Anytime I see something that gives me a feeling of, oh, okay, I can kick back now and relax and stop thinking about that. What? Stop thinking about it. But how do I know that I've thought it through all the way? And now we get into the concept of overthinking, which I don't even think is a thing. In my world, there's no such thing as overthinking, right? Uh, but wait a minute. Why am I to stop thinking about this? You know, how I haven't reasoned through the entire problem yet. I haven't put all the pieces together yet. I've thought to this point on a progression. Now the system is telling me, okay, you've reached the point at which you've stated a desire, you've expressed a desire to feel some type of way, and surprise, surprise, the system has prepared a way to feel that way. Now stop thinking about it. And that means something. That has to mean something. And this is what I mean about learning how to think, teaching oneself how to think, right? I've taught myself how to think this way because intuitively that bothered me. I said, well, wait a minute, this has to have a meaning. But I'm not that fucking smart. Like, I don't have the high IQ. I don't have the and I almost mentioned his name, but I'm thinking of a particular person in the panelverse. I don't have that level of IQ, right? I'm not just fucking fast as a fucking whip, right? I'm not like that. That's not me. Um, so I'm not able to come up with that in the moment. I need time, and that time is actually beneficial. Like, now I'm like, okay, but I'm having this discontent within myself. My intuition is saying, now wait a minute, something don't seem right here. My spidey sense is tingling, and it turns out by tapping into my intuition, guess what? Intuition is knowledge gained outside of logic and reason. So as I'm preaching think for yourself, as I'm preaching logic and reason, I really need to also be preaching intuition. So the more I tapped into my own intuition, I said, okay, my spidey sense is tingling. This has to mean something, but I don't know what it means. Now I've taught myself, here's how I figure out what it means. I just take my time. I relax. I let it come to me, which is what? That's the yin to the yang, right? When some of these people with the real high IQs are just bang, 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 bang all the time, that's yang energy, right? When is that person utilizing the yin energy, which is what I call getting out of my own way? I'm just letting the dust settle, right? But I'm always thinking about it. I'm always mulling it over in my mind. Why did that bother me? Why has that been bothering me for 20 years? But then the system, for 20 years, going back to when I was with my first wife, going back to when I was had a mortgage and was sitting in front of my my home theater system and 1999 or 1998, watching Fight Club on DVD, right, with the remote control in my hand, and it said the things you own end up owning you, you know, and that was a big one of the things that sort of got me thinking in a certain type of direction. All but then again, all of the mechanisms of the system that are in place to say, okay, we see that you're feeling some type of way. Here's the salve, right? We just take the salve, and for years I was happy to continue to apply the salve, but the spidey sense was tingling all along, right? The spidey sense was tingling all along. Well, anyway. Well, but wait a minute. See, this is and this is where I'm really now again, it's up to you, Skater Destroy. Is this really an arena you're ready to go into? Because I'm a tough customer and I'm gonna beat the fuck out of you with thinking and logic, right? So he says, what's the solution then? What makes you think there's a solution? Right. And now I'm assuming that I know what you're even asking, right? If I really wanted to get pedantic, I would say, well, what exactly are you asking to be solved? Right. But here's what I would say is, what are you asking the solution to what? So let's just assume I think I know what you're asking the solution is. I would say, what makes you think there's a solution? And I'm also going to further assume you're asking what's the solution collectively for humanity, right? Because here's what always goes along with the loop into problem solving. It's always a lot of we talk. Well, we just got to do this and we just got to do that, right? And here's what I say that drives them crazy. I say, you don't have a we. What are you talking about? There is no we. I said, if you're going to problem solve collectively at the level of a we, you got to demonstrate to me that you have a physical body that you can refer to as a we, that you can mobilize and and that you can empower with a task, and then they will go off and perform the task to solve the problem. Because here's the key. Here's one of the keys, Skate and Destroy. You have not been emboldened, you have not been empowered to solve these problems, but the system, for its own purposes, it's preying on the psychology and the coding it put into your brain to send you off on the fool's errand of attempting to come up with solutions when you ain't the one that's got the power to solve the problems, if they keep you at the level of collective problem solving. Because every time I'm engaging in problem solving, if you go back and create a transcript of everything I've just said, you print it out and you read it and you analyze it, what you will see, at no point did I ever prescribe any problem solving outside of my sphere of influence, because that's the only place I have power in this realm, is inside of me. You can't. Now here's what I'll say, and I'm basing this on, I need you to prove to me that I have power outside of myself to solve problems. Okay. I'm not willing to accept at face value. I'm not willing to assume because this system lets me go and cast a ballot. I'm not willing to assume because this system lets me hold money and choose how to spend it. I'm not just going to assume that I have power outside of me to influence or change anything in this realm whatsoever until it's proven and demonstrated to me. So when you say, what's the solution? I need you to demonstrate to me, where is your power to solve anything? Now, I've proven to me within my own sphere of influence that I have a lot of power to solve and resolve issues within me. Now, I'm going to jump ahead a little bit if we get skate and destroyed to the point where he says, okay, wow, it turns out I do have a lot of power within myself, within my own sphere of influence to problem solve for myself, not until you demonstrate to me via, well, and not even leave me out of it, not until you demonstrate to yourself, not until you prove to yourself, and maybe you've already done this, I don't know, not until you demonstrate to yourself that you're able to do that with what? Real world effectiveness. See, it can't remain theoretical. So, what happens within the sphere of influence? That's where the transformation takes place. And now we get to the collective, now we get to the social and the relational aspects of being a human being in the heaven or hell realm in 2025 is I can only ever gauge my internal progress by going out into the world and then pressing the flesh and relating with my fellow humans. And that's how I gauge my progress. But also by, going on to the internet, into the internet, discussing ideas, sort of laying out, here's my way of thinking, here's my assertions, uh, laying my arguments out and allowing other people to, have the ability to pick them apart, right? But not through ridicule, not through appealing to the fickle feelings of the peanut gallery via ridicule, because anybody can do that. That's easy, right? And you can see I'm very strident in my thinking. I'm very disciplined in these practices. And I would assert that until the individual has done what I'm describing, the individual has not tapped into their sources of power or has only tapped into themselves theoretically and not in a way that is demonstrable via effectiveness in the real world. And I have many different things I can point to in the real world that come out to effectiveness that only occurred because I tapped into my own source of power within myself and then brought that via my creative force, brought that into being, brought that into being as a new thing, a living thing, right? Mhm. But you see that uh, because of how disciplined my thinking is, I can't even get past. I haven't even read his entire comment yet. What's the solution then? Question mark. And then this is what I would say is the second part is the second. You probably don't understand that you're doing this. The second part is an appeal to the peanut gallery, the fickle feelings of the peanut gallery via ridicule. This is ridicule. Just be a nomad, right? I've always had a desire to try a nomad lifestyle, but then saying, well, it's not practical, right? And that's what you mean by I'm just a bit scared to sell all my shit and give my business I've worked so hard to create. Well, I never created a business. I never had any shit to sell. See, I didn't, surprise, surprise, I never made a success of myself in this world. Now I credit slash blame the undiagnosed fake autism, but I never made a go of it in this realm. See, I only ever wage slaved. I never accrued any wealth. Now, what I would say is, and now here's the part that's hard to face for a lot of people. You know, whatever level of relative affluence Skate and Destroy is at, you're still poor, right? You're not rich, right? You're still a poor person, just like me. Except it's different flavors of poor person. Now back to the Fight Club example, the things you own end up owning you. Sounds to me like your business owns you, right? So what it sounds like to me that that's a sunk. By the way, that is the sunk cost fallacy. You've sunk so much of your blood, sweat, and tears into creating and building up this business, right? That I'm just assuming is successful. I mean, I've consumed enough content. There's a lot of people that, and I don't know you, but there's a lot of people who think they have successful businesses that actually aren't successful, and in fact are only even able to operate through continuing to access credit, right? Through continuing to take out loans. So is the business even profitable? And then, is the to what extent is the business profitable? Well, we know this. Number one, your business does not make you enough money to where if you wanted to go spend a year living like JG, if you know who JG is, riding the rails, your business doesn't pay you enough to replace your own income for a year, right? So how successful is your business? Have you just bought a job? Have you purchased your own employment, right? Because see, uh, part of me never making a success of myself in this realm financially is, uh, this tiny space that you see me in. I own this motherfucker outright. This is my Nissan Versa, that I've been sleeping in for many months now, and it's registered. It has insurance. It has tags, right? I have a driver's license. I'm legally parked at least until the marathon on Sunday. At some point I'm going to have to move the car, but and hopefully it starts. If not, it'll just need a jump. But I'm pretty sure it'll start. Well, and even then, technically, as long as I can push it far enough to roll downhill, I can pop start it since I do have a manual. But what I would say, to cut to the chase, is uh, I would encourage you to spend time with that part of your brain that immediately wants to solve a problem and say, well, what's the solution? I would say, why do you need a solution? What good is a solution? What is a solution going to do for you? Right? What is the benefit of that? Oh, that's right. As soon as you identify the solution, you can go back to feeling some type of way. And who does that benefit to feel some type of way? Because I've talked about it before on here. If I live long enough, I am going to fully master my emotions if I live long enough, meaning that if I am thinking about a problem and I feel some type of way, I just use that as a practice. I use that as a spiritual practice within myself to learn to, well, let's just meditate with what that feeling is. Let's just meditate with the feeling. And again, I've talked about before, the only way out is through, which is not really the case. The only effective way that I've identified to escape the feeling of uncertainty, right? The only effective way to deal with it is to move through it, right? And to experience it and to let it pass, to let it go, right? And that's a practice. So part of that, the system depends upon you defaulting to problem solver mode. That keeps you, that will prevent you from ever feeling comfortable with how uncomfortable uncertainty feels. Because the last thing this system wants you to do is to become comfortable enough with uncertainty that you desensitize yourself to discomfort. Because when I talk about the fact that I've fully adapted to street level homelessness, all that is I'm desensitized to a whole bunch of stuff that bothered me on day one just as much as it would bother you. Now, there's certain things about my personality and who I am as a person. I'm less disgusted by certain things. It's never really bothered me to go dig through a trash can, for example. Like if I go a day or two, even when I had, even back in the old days of, wage slaving, if I had to go 24 hours without a shower, I maybe my ability to tolerate that was a little greater than other people's, right? I wasn't just necessarily obsessed with washing myself all of the time, necessarily, but I was a one shower every 24 hours kind of guy, right? Uh, at the risk of making everybody's ooh gross go off, I haven't showered in been about 3 months. I ain't gonna lie. Now, do I smell? No, I really don't. Surprise, surprise, the body knows what to do. The skin knows what to do. Now, a lot of that's a function of my diet. And I hate to break it to you folks. Two things that make you have body odor. Number one thing that makes you have body odor is the chemicals in the products themselves. The deodorant and the soap is designed to cause you to use them at least once in 24 hours. And I learned that by traveling around, hitchhiking, and every once in a while somebody would offer me a shower, say, hey, you can come take a shower, or I would, go to the truck stop and take a shower. What I found was that if I used the chemical soap, if I used the chemical deodorant, that the next day I smelled worse than if I just had never showered at all. And that's when I begin to transition away from these things, and that's why I have that's why I pay way more. Even though I don't have a lot of money, I pay for things like this, the Dr. Bronner's soap, which isn't even all natural. They'll tell you it is. It's not. It certainly has chemicals in it, but it has way less chemicals in it. So this is when I do. Now they said you just said you didn't take a shower. Yeah, I don't. I haven't taken a shower in a couple of months, but I put this under my armpits, right? So probably once every 24 hours, this is going into the nether, into the armpits, and then you know eventually the nether regions will get to a point where it's like, all right, well, we got to go take a shower, but that hasn't happened. So number one is the products make you stinky, where you have to take a shower every 24 hours, right? Same thing with the hair products. Because I've had long hair and not showered regularly, and surprise, surprise, my hair was just fine. Um, and then number two thing that makes a lot of BO is poor diet. And McDonald's and Taco Bell and packaged foods, right? Seed oils and all of these things. No, see, I talked about the loop into problem solving enough, and here came Dick. Dick said I could also argue. What I'd say is, I'm ready for. I like Dick's arguments. In fact, there's been times when Dick got a wild hair up his ass and went live and made some of his own arguments, and maybe planted some seeds in my brain. So that's what I would say is get to it, buddy. Get to it. I would love to. I would love to hear some freedom grower uh, assertions and arguments. So why are you depriving us of that? I would say. All right. Let's see you later. Yeah. Skate destroys out of here. Rant over, by the way. Rant over. Mm. Now, will Dick ever train himself out of the loop into problem solving? That's the real question. Of course, I haven't observed old Dick in a while on a panel, so I don't know. Maybe he doesn't do that anymore. But there's a whole lot of other folks that's their, it seems to be their hobby. Uh, yeah, this is some of the notes I took the other morning. Individuals. It says when I describe accurately the present systemic realities via my own extrapolations, individuals default, and when you see the word default, that means usually means based on their systemic programming. And when you hear systemic programming, that's parts of our psychologies, right, that were placed there by the system for the system's benefit on behalf of the system, right? Individuals default to the loop into problem solving, and that's only ever going to benefit the system. And they engage in we problem solving, we problem solver language. And that's an error, right? That's a mistake, right? Now, to continue to repeat errors, especially while not knowing that that's what the person is doing, right? To just continue on in folly. And when I talk about effectiveness in the real world or effectiveness within my own sphere of influence, that's one of the major ways that I've been effective in my own life, in my own thinking, in my own progress, is anytime I identify that this particular path cannot bear fruit, I just don't go down that path anymore. Okay, I see the folly in the loop into problem solving. I don't beat myself up and say, wow, how could I have ever been so silly and foolish to repeatedly loop into problem solving? I skip the guilt and I just completely skip that part where, oh, well, now I got to, the gnashing, the tearing of my clothes and, how could I ever been so silly? Forget that. I accept that that's part of being a human. That's fine. I accept that. What I find unacceptable is to continue down that path in now or in the future, right? And that's the continuous disciplining of the mind is when the programming catches me in my lesser moments, when the programming comes to the fore, when I default to the programming, the continuous disciplining of the mind is when I realize it and I'm like, oh, wow, I'm doing that thing again. Knock it the fuck off. Don't do it. Just don't do it. And that's a big part of effectiveness is abandoning, whether immediately in the moment or just as an option going forward, the abandonment of paths of thinking, paths of action, right, or suggestion that can never bear fruit at the level of effectiveness. Knock it the fuck off, even if it makes me feel some type of way. Because remember, I'm also having a goal for myself of leveling up my own ability to cope with my own emotions, meaning, oh, when I loop into problem solving, that assuages some of my feelings of uncertainty. But wait a minute, am I a pussy? No, I'm not a pussy. I'm strong and powerful. So I can just teach myself how to be okay with feeling uncertain about something for a few moments. And surprise, surprise, I just let it go and it just leaves, right? Because logically, explain to me logically with what's going on in this world, why should I feel secure? Right? Make the logical case to me for why I should feel secure about what's going on out here. Right? Now, the fact that people who falsely believe themselves to be traditional family values Christians, and I don't mean you, Dick, obviously, or people who believe that they're MAGA types and all of these things, uh, I sort of lost my train of thought there, but I don't mean via ridicule. Again, now we're back to appealing to the fickle feelings of the peanut gallery via ridicule and just laughing about the Democrats and Biden's poopy diaper. Well, that doesn't get us anywhere. Ridiculing the Democrats and laughing at Biden's poopy diaper doesn't get us anywhere, right? Well, or now see, because I is it possible? Because I'm a major theme of what I've talked about is connecting to my own source of power within my own sphere of influence. So if a person does that enough times consistently over time and proves to themselves, if I prove to myself time and time again that I have what it takes to deal with whatever comes my way, maybe now I do have the confidence to feel secure. And maybe, just maybe, I can also, in my own mind, say, well, because of this, that, and the third, not only can I feel confident in my abilities based on my own track record, right? Logically speaking, I've proven it to myself. See? And that's when I talk about things like, if something's worth doing, it's worth doing of its own merits. I don't need to be rewarded outside of, if something's worth, if an undertaking is worth doing, you know, I trust that I will be rewarded within the undertaking. I don't need to be acknowledged. I don't need to be rewarded and patted on the back outside of that. See, now we get into a lot of self-reliance. We get into a lot of ideas around, you know, who I trust, who I trust, me. Who do you trust? Right. And that's from 1980, 1990s Fear of a Black Planet, Public Enemy, Flava Flav. Who I trust? Who I trust? Me. Who you trust, man? But not just trusting myself based on nothing, trusting myself based on my track record, based on what the fuck I've done, based on my path of progress, based on what I've accomplished that means something to me, not what I've accomplished that means something to this world. Because what was Skate and Destroy talking about when he was here earlier? And there's nothing against him, but he was touting what he's achieved that this world honors, which is what? This world only counts things that can be measured in money, right? So his first step when he said, well, what's the solution then? Become a nomad, sell everything. So he's saying now you're from his point of view, it's like, now you're talking about things that the solution may be for me to turn my back on all of the things that I've done in this wicked system of things, to be patted on the head and told how good I am because he's checked the boxes of what this system says means he's a good person, which is things that can be measured in money. I'm here to tell you, I'm no count, Jack. I'm no count, meaning no account. Based on what this realm, based on what America values, I have no account in this realm, meaning I can't point to anything and say, here's my success that can be measured in money. The only thing I could say is, because this car is certainly not worth anything, right? I have no possessions that are worth anything. I could maybe say, well, I have an ability to go out here and earn a tiny amount of money, totaling around $1,500 a week, which is nothing, folks, which is nothing. And I'm only even willing to work for that amount of money because I'm able to live in the motherfucker. I'm able to live at my workplace when I drive a truck, right? So I don't have anything I can point to as success in this realm, right? But I have all sorts of things that I can point to within me to say I have a reason to be confident in my abilities. I have a reason to feel secure in this realm, right? Even as uncertain as things are. Because no matter what you do, no matter what level of problem solving you engage in, you will never be secure in this realm. Ever. What is this emoji, Kyle? Yeah. Well, it's probably a generational gap thing too. I think Kyle's probably uh not a Gen Xer, I'm assuming. So, which is a boomer. I'm a boomer, brother. So I understand. You know me, hopefully, you know that I'm tapped in. I'm a little more tapped into the zeitgeist than the rest of the boomers. So I do understand that the younger generations do not look on the movie Fight Club nearly as favorably as the boomers do. So I'm certainly aware of that, sir. So if I'm correct in assuming that that to take that as a critique of Fight Club, then uh, your points are certainly valid. I do not consider that to be in any way a perfect movie. Oh, okay. Well, yeah, also a boomer. All right. Well, either way. Oh, good. See, some of this is, I assume things that aren't necessarily valid. So, yeah. Oh, yeah, that's right. The penguin. Was there a penguin? Am I on drugs? I mean, I'm not. Well, and then, that's the thing, Rachel, in the world, not of it. And yes, and how do we do that? And that's what I find interesting in, is the discussions of how to do these things, right? Is how to how to be in the world but not a product of it. And which I do think ties into a lot of this diatribe I've been delivering vis-a-vis um, you know the basically the default systemic programming versus what am I able to figure out and program my own mind for. Yeah, Penguin in the Cave. I need to watch that movie again. It's been a while. And by the way, I will default to my uh, super high functioning retarded person trying to remember Fight Club. I realize I'm retarded. It's like, why can't I? I've seen the movie at least 20 times. Why can't I remember that? Well, yeah, confidence in ourselves. But then again, I'm going to bring it back to the marketing, and I'm going to bring it back to advertising. The system needs us to farm out how we feel about ourselves and how we think, how we view ourselves at the level of our own image. The system needs us to farm that out to worship via consumerism, worshiping the god of money via consumerism. That's what the system needs us to do. Surprise, surprise, that's what we do collectively. And you see, as much as I don't like to use the pronouns and especially the we pronoun, I will do it at times specifically. I will be specific about who I'm referring to, right? Penguin on the slide. What's up? What's up, brother Austin? Good to see you. How are you, sir? Oh, I don't know if you caught the first of this. I don't know if you caught the first of the stream, but I did. I did reference uh, folks. I have not yet managed to run off. So, yeah, right back at you. Peace to the man and peace to the chat. Uh, in some ways, I am. I do feel blessed and honored to be able to address the folks that, try as I might, I have not yet been able to run off. And with at least one new person, Skate and Destroy, who's uh, we don't know if I'll be able to run him off yet or not. But it seems like most of you probably are run offable, and I respect that. I respect that. How's my hair? How's my hair? Oh man, shame on the mess. I ate all my food way earlier than normal today, although I've still got 6 eggs. And see, this is gratitude, by the way. I'll preach a little bit to the chat. The practice of gratitude. I um, certainly something I don't know that I succeed on a daily basis in practice because I do engage in some feeling sorry for myself at times, but I'm certainly grateful for the egg yolks. In fact, got 3 dozen eggs on board, and 6 of which will be consumed today. I've already consumed 12, and then we got 18 left for tomorrow. Well, I don't know. That's the fun part. We don't. I mean, we don't really know, do we? We don't really know, but that's part of the part of the fun. Uh, anyway, I won't try to get it. I won't even attempt to get into descriptions of whatever that may or may not be. Right? That might be more well suited to uh, another broadcaster with a much larger platform than this one. That might be more in his wheelhouse. I don't know. Or his antithesis, his potential foil, as it were. I'm attempting not to mention these folks by name. I've noticed that I don't know if it's the algorithm or the platform itself, but it seems to increase the likelihood of certain folks showing up. Uh, and I don't mean the commenter on the screen. I mean certain other folks. At least one of which I've taken as a bad omen. Uh, when a particular individual that I'm purposefully not naming showed up for the one and only time I believe since I visited that person in person. That person in person since we not that we pressed the flesh because there was no physical touching at any point. I don't believe. No, the abuse was only psychological and emotional. Right. That's right. Excellent. Excellent. Yeah. Yeah. That's right. Person. Oh man, figure it out, person. Oh man, just imagine being a only use me blade and having what some would consider the superpower of making thousands upon thousands of dollars by drinking alcohol and going live. Although I have my own version of that, which is getting shit faced drunk and playing poker. I'm halfway decent poker player sober, but I seem to go into idiot savant territory when I get very intoxicated for whatever reason. But thankfully, my physical body can no longer tolerate those levels of intoxication. No, not Moose, but that you're funny, Rachel. Rachel, I can't say what I want to say because then I'll just be flirting with Rachel again. But um, I'll just admire your sense of humor. How about that? I'll just do, I'll sidestep the flirting with Rachel and just and compliment her sense of humor. How about that? Well done, Miss Rachel. Oh man. Oh, oh man. What a mess. What a mess. Well, I'm a truck driver, but even I'm reaching the limit of my bowels here. My not my bowels. Oops, my bladder. Let's not. We're not. Let's not go stinky in the car. We've not had to do that, but we shall return directly. All right, we're back. Much better. Much better. Yeah, that's right. That's right. Don't even worry about it. No, let's not. Don't even worry. Don't worry your pretty little head about that. So I forgot that there were ladies present. That's right. Shame on the mess, partner. Shame on the mess. I was hearing something. I usually don't watch this the trucker content, but since I've been thinking about going back to truck driving, at least temporarily, I've been looking at a little bit of the trucker content, and somebody's claimed that in Arkansas, of all places, that at a weigh station, that the DOT was out there making the drivers prove that they could read and write English, and then like fining and maybe arresting them if they couldn't. But I don't believe it until I see it personally. Interesting. I like how you think. I like where your head's at there, 5 speed. Life just seems to be a program. Pro meaning forward, future. Gram, unit of weight. Mar, deface, disfigure, impair. Interesting. Don't be the game. Spirited as a gamecock. Shout out to South Carolina, by the way. 1725 from Gamecock. Bird bred for fighting, 1670s. From game, noun in the sport amusement. Nice. Well done, sir. I like that. Very good. Very good. Oh, well, yeah, there you go. Your word is the value. Word up. We're getting there. That's the royal we. We're getting there. Yep, exactly. Believe half of what you see and none of what you hear. Yep, indeed. Yep. Yeah, did we hit 33 briefly? You know that's my number. One of them anyway. Yeah, right back at you. Much love. That's right. Right back at you. Yep. The 33. I'm pretty sure I already regaled Kyle with tales of my football playing grandfather and his ties to the 33 coding. And as noted in the past, much of the audience hates the sports talk. So, oh yeah, good old Saint. Not, I must say, not a fan. Although he is entertaining. Yeah, Woo Pig Sooie. I will say that Saint. And this is a live streamer. Saint 10 or 10. Let's say that. Let's try not to say it in my accent. Saint 10. Which that sounds like a specific term phonetically, doesn't it? But yeah, he's certainly entertaining, I must say. Aha, that's right. The change you wish to see. Be the change you wish to see. Yep. And then again, I would bring it back to what I was hooping and hollering about earlier on the stream. Where at the level of effectiveness, where does my power lie to change? And that's within myself. Oh, is he in jail? Really? Did not know that. I got most of my Saint news came via grad, so I'm out of the loop. I never was just a big IP2 guy. Just there were I was subscribed to a few IP2 channels, but that the ones that sort of there's like an IP2 day something or other. There's a couple of them, and I've been using my actual subscriptions tab feed more, and I don't watch most of that stuff, so was not aware. Huh? Where at? What did he? What's he alleged to have done? I wonder. I'm a little surprised that hasn't showed up in my feed. Hmm. Hmm. 11-11, at least on the West Coast. Oh, Maryland. Oh goodness, that's probably not a good. Not that there's, not that it's good to be charged with assault in any state, but Maryland probably not one of them because maybe a bit counterintuitive for certain folks, but most of the blue states not fans of assault. I must say, not fans at all. Yep, been live for an hour 46. How about you? Yeah, I didn't get too far in this article, did I? That was like an hour ago. Over an hour ago, I think I was trying to talk about. I attempted to talk about credit default swaps. I don't know if I have the energy for that at this point. Probably don't. Oh, and I love how now that all the everything's just blamed on tariffs. Have y'all noticed that? It's just everything's the fault of tariffs all of a sudden. So the fact that it's been near, it's been runaway levels of inflation, arguably. Now every time I see inflation mentioned in an article, it's always tied to tariffs. You know, uh, handy dandy bit of programming there. All right, I got to see what Saint did. Although that Maryland is probably one of those no bail states. So is he? But he's still in jail. I'm surprised they didn't let him out. Yeah, fuck. Uh, just recently, I guess. Oh, there you go. Okay, assault on a Leo. Okay, so that's yeah, yeah. He's. I'm not going to say he's cooked, but yeah. Wow. Well, I'll look that up on my own time, I suppose. It is fucking cold though. Shout out to Mr. Escobar. I don't think he's around anymore, but he's also in Los Angeles. I mean, it doesn't really get cold here. That's the thing, but it's fucking cold right now. My tootsies are chilly. And apparently, Aaron Imholt's about to resolve his case via a plea deal. What? Oh, really? Rachel must be a brainy gal. She lived and worked at the Naval Academy as a civilian in Annapolis, Maryland. Excellent. You got the big brain, Rachel? Sounds like it. What? April? Oh yeah, dude. I'm Kyle. I know you have a good memory, so you may have heard me say this. I used to unironically, and I'm not a huge fan of that term, but back during the pandemic when I was driving a truck, I watched their show. I used to watch Steel Toe before all the Ricada stuff, before all of this, the wife swapping. That I used to watch, but only when it was Aaron and April. I actually really liked. Although I always had to tune out when they started talking. Aaron used to try to talk, and he still does, I guess, but his political takes were just, and I don't even mean he doesn't know anything about politics. So yeah, I never could. I had to I had to turn away when he would try to talk about politics. And he used to be allergic to conspiracy theories, but yeah, I used to like watching him in April. But I could definitely tell it was obvious that she wasn't built for it. You could tell that she wasn't built for the level of scrutiny that she was finding herself under. And then Aaron certainly wasn't handling it properly, in my view. I can't do Kevin Brennan. I can't. I just do the like I saw, a little bit of the stuff with his, his him getting pulled over and being a dick to the cops and all that. But I can't. I just can't do the Kevin Brennan stuff, unfortunately. Oh, okay. Rachel claiming not to have the big brain, but anyway. Oh, yeah, Navy wife. Well, there you go. Either way, pretty cool if you ask me. But yeah, I always thought April got a little too much. I mean, it's the internet, so she's gonna get shit for her looks. But I know somebody recently had seen her in person and said that she's a good-looking lady. She's attractive, and I was like, yeah, of course she is. How could she not be? But, it's the internet. Everybody's gonna get picked apart. I'm retired though. For the record, I'm retired. But yeah, and I've never dated a blonde. Never been with a blonde, as it were. But yeah. So, but yeah, she's definitely something to her for sure. Probably, I don't know how into the MBTI you folks are, but probably an ESFJ, which I think both ex-wives were probably most likely ESFJs. I'm almost sure ex-wife number two is, but pretty sure number one also. That's a very specific thing. If y'all know anything about the MBTI. Well, we're just doing crowd work now, so unless y'all got anything, since I'm the smartest person that sounds the dumbest, feel free to throw some topics at me. But see how much we got on the power bank here. 72%, not bad. That'll get me through till mañana. Oh fuck! Thanks again for the donation, by the way. Much appreciated. Might take me a road trip with that donation. Who knows? You know what I've been watching a lot of, Kyle, though, is I've actually been watching a lot of the Amber Lynn Reed reaction channels, which I don't know how that makes me look. I don't know. Again, super high functioning retard. So if I'm not supposed to tell people, I don't know to not tell. But the ankle. Anybody ever heard of the channel The Ankle? I've been watching a lot of that. A lot of Mr. Snowflake's second channel, and I don't do the Geordie's crooked toe or whatever the fuck it is. But that Willow Davis, he covers mostly King Cobra, but then he covers some Amber Lynn also. And for whatever reason, the people that it's a very particular way of speaking. If anybody knows the Ankles channel, for whatever reason, that sort of way of talking is fingernails on the chalkboard for some folks, but it doesn't bother me. Yeah. Oh, Willow. Yeah. Yeah. There's something maybe a little too earnest with the feminist type of stuff. I don't know. Like I don't. I get along with progressive types personally. I mean, I don't identify as a progressive. Oh yeah, the smugness. Yeah. Yeah, I could see that. Yeah. Yeah. He gets a little, for me, he gets a little too earnest with the progressivism, but because I don't have a problem with progressivism. I just don't. It's the idea that it's going to be like foisted, like like you have to act on this stuff. I'm not a fan of, you know. But I do like that he's in some way like has tied himself to King Cobra, where he like has this sort of. You could tell he's tortured by a lot of King Cobra's gender rants. Yeah, thank you. Yes, yeah, exactly. Because I'm one of those people where I'm like, look, every group has a point. Like, I'm not one of these like, oh, we just hate, we hate those people, with the pink hair, and they don't have like every group has some valid points in my world. But yeah, it's like this idea that like now we all have to behave in specific ways. It's like no, yeah, gender relations rants. Which yeah, I love that he has to watch so many of Cobra's, just which are ignorant, while simultaneously Cobra may very is personal friends with a pseudo trans person at least, and at least a person suffering some form of gender dysphoria known as Sasha, also known as Warlord, and who at this point probably have had sexual relations at some point, right? I mean, not that I care or know about any of that, but uh, with the levels of alcohol consumed on both of their parts, I mean, it would have to have happened at some point, I'm assuming. It's like one of those, you go to the barbershop enough times and you're getting a haircut sort of things. Now, I do think Willows has a point when he's like, Cobra just really should not talk about these things, but it's America. And if he wants to talk about it, now maybe not on YouTube, YouTube may not allow him to talk about those topics, but yeah, he's certainly allowed to. Willow or Warlord or King Cobra, who are we talking about? Rachel? Oh, I bet. I have not watched any of that. I'm sure he does have some freaky videos out there. I have enough weird shit in my brain. I'm not trying to add to it. In fact, yeah, well, I won't even go there right now, but yeah. Um, I'm pretty sure I will never, ever, ever, ever watch any sort of graphic content ever again. I can't say for sure, but I'm pretty sure. But yeah, I could only imagine with Mr. Warlord. But are you familiar with Warlord there, Rachel? Rachel may be because we probably covered. I know we covered King Cobra. We may have covered some Warlord at some point. And is he gonna? I guess he's gonna avoid prison. It would look like he was going to prison at a certain point. Did Warlord avoid prison? Now I start to wonder: are there really 28 people here? Because it's like I'm not even talking at a certain point. But my face is on the screen, so you know how we monkeys are. Something about looking at faces. Oh, King Cobra, yeah, definitely. His main channel got deleted. He had he had like 112K subscribers, something like that. Who's Cool Taste? I don't know who that was. I think I've heard that name, but I don't even know who that was. or is. I was watching a lot of Breaking Banquet and Wings of Redemption, but even that, and I'm not into video games, so I'm sort of off of that now. Although watching Wings get his ass kicked in Mortal Kombat was that was fun for about a week. And I'd pretty much never watch Lolcow live anymore. I was a big fan at first. Once they really, in my view, once they really bungled and fumbled the potential bag with the Thorpes, um, I lost interest. And I'm not even really a Thorpe fan. I like that. I think Grace is really good at what she does, but I'm not really a huge fan. I've never been a huge fan of their channel overall. Oh, I have heard that name. Okay. Cool Taste was a blind guy that lived near Cobra who gave him the name. Oh, I did not know that. See, relatively new to Cobra, not as new as some folks, but I am aware of just how long the history's been. And I've watched a lot of documentaries, that covered his. There's so much to the lore. I mean, you know, mainly the bite-sized vids. Watched a lot of. There's so many of those documentaries, though. But my favorite was the Couch Chris. That was what really got me into Cobra as a personality. Not that I'm into Cobra, but as far as the personality was that the Couch Chris saga was just I was just fascinated. Yeah, I really liked it at first, but even then there were some stinkers. But I don't know, and I really don't. I dislike Keem. I just don't like Keemstar that much. At first, he seemed all right, but yeah, the Couch Chris saga was fucking that was amazing. And then something I've often criticized in the so-called truth community. We have so many personalities here in the panelverse, Kyle, but we have no people that make documentaries. There's one person that makes some like clip content, but there's really nobody that does the long form documentaries, and it's a shame. And realistically, I probably uh, would have been the best suited to that, but I just have no desire. And maybe it's simpler now with the AI and some of the software, but I just have no desire to put the time into video editing that would be required. I'm just not interested. Oh, Local Lab. Yeah, it's definitely contrived. Well, because at a certain point, like they were like, Wings quit the show. And I was like, all right. And I went and then when I found out what he quit over, it was like, oh, he quit because he demanded that some troll be banned. And I was like, that's literally the first thing he ever quit the show over. And he's quit the show multiple times. So it's like, what is this? Now, maybe and I don't know if he's back on the show or not. Maybe he's not. I don't know. Don't care. But it's like now he's quit the show so many times that he's now quit for the same reason more than once. I do like Boogie though. Boogie's entertaining to some extent. Of course, not enough to watch his. I don't actually, not enough to watch his channel. It's like Amberlyn Reed. Yeah, it's entertaining, but not enough to go to her channel, right? Cobra is one of the few I'll actually go to his channel from time to time. But God, all that food is and I can't watch people eat, man. It's just I can't listen to people eating. Oh, it's just fucking so bad, so bad. And then he's so out of it. He's like eating bugs half the time, or like he had mold on. And then at a certain point, it's like, are we just all being punked? The guy's eating fucking mold. He's eating like mold off the side of the fucking jam jar or whatever. It's like at a certain point, it's like, is this even real? Yeah, fiery fish pizza. That's most definitely what's up. Yeah, I don't even know, man. I don't even know. And he's got to have one of the strongest stomachs of all time. Yeah, chair bugs. Yeah, CEO of chair bugs, man. Oh man. Oh fuck. It's just and there's just the surrealism back to the back to some of what I was getting into with Skate and Destroy and the feeling secure and all of this and all of that and all of the various psychological mechanisms, but then just the surrealism and the absurdity of the realm itself. The is this even real, man? And I'm not here to declare myself a targeted individual, and people will explain away a lot of this stuff, but I have these bizarre experiences on a regular basis where it's like I don't even mention most of them, but I had one the other day. It was like, um, I'm lost in my thoughts too. This is half of it is like when I'm walking, even if I'm paying attention, and I'm always paying attention to my environment, but I'm like levels above off in thought somewhere. I'm not even really here much of the time. Yeah, Salvador Dali Boglum. And yeah, exactly. Um, he's an artist. I mean, there's no doubt about that. Um, but whether he knows it or not, but or whether he knows what makes him an artist or not. But so I'm walking down the sidewalk, which is so the sidewalk I'm on is like it's a park, it's a public park in a major city, right? And then so on the other side of the street is another sidewalk, and I'm not paying much attention, but there's a guy, and I don't like to be around people. Like I avoid people whenever possible, and there's not a lot of people around, but in a major city, there's always people. There's always people around, even at 3 in the morning. There's people around, But this was in the daytime, and I'm really good at like I always know like my speed, which direction I'm going, and then when somebody else is going another direction, like I can always tell when we're gonna fucking intersect, right? And I can tell, man, that he's gonna end up like he's gonna land on my side. It's not my sidewalk, but he's gonna land on the sidewalk I'm on, like right in front of me, right? And it's just gonna be a whole like why do I even need to worry about, you know, getting around him or navigating all of this when I can always speed up, right? So I start walking as fast as humanly possible. And then this is one of the reasons I don't want to go back to truck driving is because he immediately speeds up as well, right? But then I'm fast enough that I can blow up his angle, from sports or whatever. But he speeds up enough, I have to just break into a fucking run, right? And then I'm going to dip through the park anyway because my car is like kind of around the corner from where all of this is happening. So he doesn't know this, but once I pass him on the sidewalk, I'm about to go through the fucking grass across another sidewalk to my car, right? Thank God the so-called truth community is not that interested in figuring out where I am because some of these details could certainly help pinpoint the location, but not that it matters at this point. But anyway, and that's not even the relevant factors of all of this. That's not the spiritual gang stalking targeted individual aspects. Hang on, I got to clear my throat here. Yeah, exactly. He's nodding on the joke, which preserves the watchability. That's right. Yes. Talking about Cobra. But so here's the spiritual gang stalking aspects. And this is where the is this even real, man? Is the realm fucking with me? But yeah, surprise, surprise. Yes, it is. It's that once I get to my car and I'm seated in my car, I now have a vantage point to see, okay, where was this bozo going and what was he doing that he just was so insistent upon breaking through my fucking path, right? And why was he trying so urgently to physically intersect with me if possible? So I look back and watch where he's going, and all he did was after he And remember, if I had just kept moving at my present pace, all that would have happened was he would have gotten directly in front of me. I would have either went around him or I would have had to slow down a little bit, right? Although it's always he might have just stopped in the sidewalk in front of me. Who knows? And again, all this is it's going to annoy me. Well, hell, I'm already annoyed on some level by pretty much everything. Although that's diminishing, thankfully. Um, but after all of this happens, and I'm seated in my car, all he did was cross into the park, walked to the corner of this like little utility building, like a park utility building that's not even like nobody ever goes in there. It probably just houses, who knows, but it's just a small little building. He walks like to the corner of that building, immediately turns around, goes back exactly the way he came, and immediately gets in his car, starts it up, and drives away. That's the gang stalking. That's the targeted individual part of it. Because if I didn't have such a fucking strong concept of self, if I wasn't so anchored within myself, that's what makes these targeted individual channels, that's what makes them go nuts. What makes them paranoid. It's not the fact that they're getting fucked with and targeted, because yeah, they are. Yes, I am being targeted and gang stalked on some level. I think everybody is. I'm certainly not special enough, although I am, but it's certainly not that I'm special, although I am. It's the fact that the realm then has to, if I so choose, it has to let me see that he did this for seemingly no purpose. Although for all I know, he's just dropped a sack of drugs off into the bushes that somebody's going to come and retrieve later. I don't fucking know. None of my business, really, ultimately. But it's like, but then it's just like, what is this? You know, like, how am I supposed to process this? You know, like, what is this? What's the meaning of this, sir? And I don't, I believe in freedom. If that's the way he wants to behave, that's fine. But like, what am I to make of that? It's everything that happened after I broke into a run to physically avoid him. It's the realm then showed me, well, actually, sir, there's probably some shenanigans happening. You're probably correct, right? Oh yeah, thank you, Rachel. Yes, that's true. Yeah, don't. Moral of the story: don't live stream at 3 a.m. in downtown. Well, if one is going to live stream in downtown Fort Smith, Arkansas at 3 a.m., don't accidentally wander off into the darkness away from the street lights, or one may be approached by meth heads attempting to rob. Yeah, and I see some of the audience left on the targeted individual talk, which I respect on some level, I must say. Maybe even lost Kyle himself on that, which is fine. I got to do me, but yes, what is that, right? And again, I'm not declaring myself a targeted individual. If I am, that means everybody is. Now maybe that's why they're leaving. They don't want to. Maybe they are like, oh yeah, maybe okay, Benton, maybe you are strong enough in your own thinking and your own concept of self to deal with that paranoia. We're not, so we're out of here. Okay, I understand that level of abandoned ship. I don't blame you. Okay, yeah, good, Kyle. But yeah, I understand why damn near 10 folks had to abandon. I get it. Believe you me. 5 years ago, that shit would have caused me to be like, what the fuck? Yeah. That's something like that happens to me damn near every day. I'm not kidding. It's almost on a daily basis. Something along those lines happens to me. All the seeds being broadcasted from the world stage and its many microphones that are used to manipulate the narrative are all controlled by the financial tool called the dollar. Where is the value for life, for future generations by allowing that? The value is in your word, not some paper, deeds, not just words. Exactly, sir. And what I would say is, when you want to if people want to get to an idea of we and collective problem solving and this idea of MAGA and the government and America and nationalism and apple pie and bootstraps, the whole thing, the American dream. You know, what I would say is when I observe what society's become, the only conclusion I can draw is that if you lump us all together and you start talking about we, I'm gonna say we ain't shit. We ain't shit because we collectively are letting all of this be done to us, right? We're allowing it to happen. Now, to transition off of that back to the TI type of talk, the targeted individual, the spiritual gang stalking stuff, there was a guy in the park over the summer, and a lot of these characters I've noticed they're here in the summertime, but a lot of them I don't know where they've gone, but they did not stick around for the winter, even though, of course, it is the rainy season. Not that it rains a lot in Southern California, but what little bit of rain it's happening now. So some of these characters, I haven't seen them; they've disappeared. But there was one guy who I don't believe was a native English speaker, but he made a sign in English talking about V2K, which I or V2. I forget how he wrote it, but it was voice to skull. He was I guess he was convinced that they were beaming the voice to skull. Now I'm not paranoid, and I'm certain voice to skull is a thing on some level. Uh, you know, thank you, Jesus. I'm protected from it. If it's a thing or whatever I'm targeted by is not that, it's something else, but it's got to be a real thing, right? It's got to be a real thing. And I remember I read a book in elementary school that was probably predictive programming for voice to skull. I shit you not. Now that I think about it, it was the premise of the book was this school kid, because when when one's in elementary school reading fiction, young adult fiction, it's generally like the slightly older kids. So I'm reading stories about the kids, that are in a couple of years I'm going to be their age, so they're probably in junior high or middle school or whatever, and I'm in elementary school. It was like one of these kids went to the dentist, had like a cracked tooth or whatever, went to the dentist, got a filling, and then figured out when they were brushing their teeth that it made it where they could read people's thoughts, right? So that now they had a superpower where all they had to do was carry their toothbrush around with them, and if they wanted to read their classmates' thoughts, just brush their teeth real quick, right? Which that had to have been some form of predictive programming for some form of voice to skull, right? This idea that thoughts are going to be put in our heads. That's right, Havana syndrome. Yes. Are you flirting with me? I couldn't help myself. I don't think you are. Just I heard that. I hear that. I've made no secret that I do tend to, for whatever reason, I'm a big movie fan and film buff, and I do tend to identify with female characters, although male characters too. And so sometimes I hear uh, from my favorite movie, Natural Born Killers. What's her name? Mallory. Why I can't think of her real name. Um, I remember. I hear her voice in my head sometimes from. Is this the voice of Skull, by the way? But no, when I say I hear it, it's not really auditory, but I hear her from the movie. Are you flirting with me? But yeah, did he say there's apple pie backstage? I don't know. I'm lost now. But yeah, someone who tends to shoot his mouth off and is, by my own estimation, flippant with my own speech. I would say this is something I'm beginning to work on my own tongue, right? The even perhaps the biblical notions of the tongue as a rudder, steering the ship. Yeah, thank you, Juliette Lewis. Yes. Oh, you looked it up. Oh, fantastic. Yeah, one of my favorite actresses, and in fact, one of the things I respect about her is that Oliver Stone, who was at the height of his powers when that movie was made, and had already won two Oscars, I believe, at least one, but I believe he'd already won both of his Oscars for best director. Uh, he wanted Juliette Lewis to put on muscle, um, like Linda Hamilton did in The Terminator, and or was that Terminator 2? Which that actually might not have had that already even happened then. But more or less, either way, he wanted Juliette Lewis to bulk up, and she just flat refused. She was just like, "No, I'm not doing that," and I respect that. And then, in fact, it was so planned that she was going to have muscles, at least arm muscles, that when you see that reenactment of Mickey and Mallory, in the I'm Wayne Gale, played by um, Robert Downey Jr., the Inside Edition type of show. That when they did the reenactments of Mickey and Mallory, the fictionalized version, the lady that played the fictionalized version of Mallory had, muscles. But so Juliette Lewis was supposed to have muscles in the movie, and she was just like, "No, I'm not doing that." I respect it. I'm like, hell yeah, she's still a bad bitch, even without the muscles. Oh, was he? Yeah. Yeah, I used to watch. I was a big JRE podcast fan, but I don't, not anymore. I stopped watching. It's been a few years. It's been several years now. But yeah, I do need to check out Woody on there. I like Woody quite a bit. Yeah, yeah. I need to go check it. Although he's a little out there, even for me, and that's saying something. He's a little out there. It's still fucking cold. It's damn near noon. What is the temperature? I bet the highs have got to be about 55 today. This is crazy. Shenanigans. I'm calling shenanigans. My toes are going numb. Am I getting frostbite? I know, by the way, I personally know somebody who got frostbite on their toes in Santa Barbara. No bullshit. Now he was a drunk, so the alcohol abuse probably played a part. But dude actually had legit frostbite on his toes from. It does occasionally get below freezing in Santa Barbara. Terrain theory. I'm not even completely sure what that is. Actually, probably. Is that the whole melted building stuff? I can't call it. Havana syndrome, I think, was the diplomats in Havana, the Americans at the embassy in Havana getting physically sick from like what was believed to be like wireless weaponry, I believe. I think that's what that was anyway. But it also, I'm sure, probably had something to do with targeted individual type of stuff, or just maybe the gaslighting of those folks, making fun of them and saying, "Well, oh, you must be think you're a targeted individual." Yeah. Oh, there you go. Yeah, that's part of it too. Yeah. Alternative to germ theory for sickness. Yeah, Havana syndrome. And by the way, I'm not really a germ theory guy. In fact, at least with the fake pandemic, whatever version of the bioweapon they hit me with, I'm convinced that does not transmit person to person. Just my opinion. That's true, Rachel, although not across the board. But yes, in general, men are physically stronger than women. That's true, but there are actually the longer you basically, if you take any endurance contest, the longer you make it last, it begins to favor women more, actually, to a certain extent. But or at least it at least levels the playing field to some extent. But even that arguably becomes more mental than physical, right? I would say becomes more of a mental thing than a physical thing. But yeah, like hyper marathons or whatever they call those really long marathons. But yeah, in general, men are physically stronger. Yeah. Anyway, I guess we're out of here. I don't know. Can't think of anything else. I felt like I did a pretty good rant. I'll put my name on that rant. So anyway, thanks for watching. Yeah, ultra marathons. Thank you, sir. Thanks for watching. Bye.